Journalist Sam Quinones.
Yes, wow, Mr. Quinones, solving human pain. You spoke earlier, it was discussed why we accept such high deaths from drugs, suicides, and COVID, a million dead from COVID. And I think and I wonder about your comments on this, and if history has moved in, if you've ever thought of working with a neurobiologist or a historian, because there's a deeply toxic self-interest, which I think you also discuss in your books, toxic self-interest versus group interest, because there's a capitalistic and Western society survival of fittest ideology that originated originally to try and justify scientifically racism and white supremacy in the 1860s with the first libertarians, Galton and Herbert Spencer, where what they were trying to show was, because that isn't how evolution works, and think tanks on both sides wrongly think that it's competition that is the magic behind evolution. It's not. It's actually cooperation, and they also wrongly view the benefits of evolution, because evolution does.
Hey, Michael, we got a lot to unpack there. Let's hear from our guest.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. This is a very interesting idea, and one that I'm still kind of wrestling with, thinking about, writing about. But I do believe that you're right. There was a period, and I try to really be the beginning of the Reagan administration. We also see it in England, the beginning of the Margaret Thatcher administration there. You begin to see this move away from the collective ideal. All government is bad, government's part of the problem. And they were addressing real issues. I mean, government had overstepped, in my opinion. There was a certain significant overstepping, but that does not mean, of course, the pendulum has to swing all the way to where it did. And my feeling is that as time went on, we lost sight, because we were so prosperous, certainly in this country. We were so prosperous that we didn't actually need one another. We didn't need that collaborative, collective community approach to life. We could, everything was done for us because we had every service that you could possibly need in this country. We began to believe that we were somehow, exceptional. All those rules don't apply to us, right? And I think that that's what began to happen, certainly with the Reagan administration, and then that pendulum began to swing, and you began to see all these towns. For example, a good example is, okay, you want free trade. There's arguments for that, but you have to do something for those towns that have lost those factories that go to Mexico, go to Malaysia, go to China in colossal numbers. And it was almost as if we felt as a country like, well, you lose. Time for you to suck it up and rebound. Coal goes away. It's your bummer. It's not ours. And I think that was an attitude, a prevailing attitude in this country that I think became very damaging. And self-reliance is an important thing, but the thing about self-reliance is it's dependent on other people. It's a counterintuitive, but I think, but you cannot be self-reliant without the help of other people. And we lost that, I think, to a great degree. And I think a symptom, there are others, but a symptom is the enormous, very entrenched now, drug addiction epidemic that we're seeing coast to coast. You also see it, though, in other statistics: suicide, depression, friendlessness. People don't have any friends, loneliness. You see a lot of things like this. You see big housing developments being built out in the middle of nowhere. So the next time you need to go buy a loaf of bread, you have to get in your car for 5 miles and that kind of thing. All of these things seem to be baked into American culture in the last 40 years. And I think the effect has been to corrode that community feel that we took so for granted, and has enormous benefits to us. And one of those is as a bulwark of defense against things like drugs. When you think about it, we evolved to be community beings. Human beings evolved to need, not to think that community was a good thing, to absolutely need it. We don't survive as a species without that movement towards each other that is essential. And we got away in this country, in the last 40 years, we believe that, well, it didn't really apply to us. And so you're seeing a lot of the things that sociologists and mental health experts and on, and journalists are noting about our culture today. The mass shooting phenomenon is another one. All of that kind of stuff. I think because we have just kind of shredded all that brought us together in that dreamland pool, and those jobs that went away, and the Main Street that had to finally buckled under to Walmart. All that's part of that same story.
Sam Quinones, you brought up Walmart, which plays a role in your